Hi, David O'Brien here, Team O'Brien Real Estate, Marin County, California, here to talk to you about home inspections, what to expect and what you can look for. So as a baseline, if you're picking a home inspector, I would encourage you to look for these two endorsements, CREA, which is California Real Estate Inspection Association, or American Society of Home Inspectors. If they're endorsed by one of those companies or organizations, then you're starting on good footing. Let's put it that way. If you're working with home inspectors here in Marin County, what I can say, and this is just my own opinion, with the inspectors that I typically try to go with, there's three of them. There's NBI, which is National Building Inspectors, and they can do both home inspection and a pest inspection at the same time. So it'll save you a little bit of money, typically like $200, $150. Or you can use Hacienda Home Inspectors by Mr. De La Hanti is the owner of that company. He's great. He works with his son too. They're my favorite, but they're typically 3 weeks out. So unless you're able to book them in advance, which is hard to do in real estate here in Marin, where closings are typically happening in 3 weeks. So you get into contract and you're closing in 3 weeks. It's hard to go with them. I find that NBI is usually more accessible because they have 3 inspectors working for their company here. The next one that I like to use is Homestead. Ed Gibson, great company, really knowledgeable in my experience. Again, really on top of his game, really looking out for the buyer. Any of those 3 organizations are just great in my opinion. As far as cost goes, what you're typically going to be looking at is anywhere from $550 to as much as $1,350. It's dependent upon the size of the property and if there's a crawl space. If the inspector has to crawl underneath the property, then that's additional work, so it'll be an additional charge with that. That's kind of roughly the cost of what you're looking for. A home inspector is going to look at all the components of the property. They're going to look at the roof, they're going to look at the windows, they're going to look at the siding, they're going to look at the foundation, they're going to look at electrical, they're going to look at the electrical main panel, the sub panel, the outlets, wiring that they can see in the garage or underneath the property. They're going to look at plumbing. They're going to look at all the main appliances. They're going to look at the heater, the air conditioning, the hot water heater, all components of the home. Some of the things that just to bear in mind is they're not going to do invasive work. So they won't, look into a wall or a cavity or anything like that. Additionally, hopefully the hot water heater's on and hopefully the heater's on. Sometimes I've gone to inspections and the pilot light's off on one of those, and the inspector won't turn the pilot on themselves. And I can't as an agent, so it means we have to come back another day to do that after the homeowner's done it or one of their contractors has done it for them. So just be aware of all that. On top of that, the inspector is just doing, he's going to be there, to backtrack a little bit, he's going to be there from usually 1.5 hours at a minimum to as much as 5 hours tops typically, but he's just looking at the components. So say if he sees something in relation to, say, a sub panel or a main panel, an electrical panel, that makes him question something, he's going to suggest that you get an electrician to go out there and look at it. The same thing's true for something going on with an HVAC system, a heater or an air conditioning unit, that he may say, well, you need to get an HVAC specialist to come look at this. That's also true for a chimney. He's going to look at the mortar around the chimney. He's going to look at the mortar inside the casing where you put the firewood, the hearth. And then if he sees things that are red flags, then he'll suggest that you have a chimney expert go look at it. So just be mindful of that. Same thing's true for a plumber as well. So those are some of the things in relation to a foundation. Before I skip ahead there, if there's cracks in the foundation, sometimes cracks can occur. Perimeter foundation, just from normal, expansion, right? You get rain, cold, heat. Those things are going to expand the soil, and sometimes the perimeter foundation will crack. He's going to determine if he sees a crack that's large enough that would warrant typically for you to get a structural engineer to go out and look at the property. Now, typically with a home inspection, I don't see that as a requirement. We've done one recently. Actually, we've had 3 in the last year of 30 deals, but that's an uncommon amount. Usually I've gone years before and not had a structural engineer need to come look at a foundation. And sometimes that's because the crack in the foundation that we find is so glaring that there's no reason to have a structural engineer look at it. You just shouldn't buy the property because of that. So those are, some of the things that you should be looking out for in relation to a home inspection. At the bottom of this video, there's going to be a form that you can fill out. If you fill out that form, then I'll be happy to send you a checklist, just so that you can actually go through the individual items that you should be looking at with a home inspection. And mind you, this is mostly anecdotal. I'm just trying to be helpful. But you should speak to your home inspector and your own agent about what you should be looking for in relation to a home inspection. Thank you kindly. All the best.